This story is not meant for weak-hearted people, and watch this video only if you are above 18. Let's get into it. My name is Adrian. Most of you know me, and I'd like to share a story to keep you all safe. A week or two ago, I stumbled upon something called the dark web. I'd watched videos about it, and it seemed kind of fake at first. So, I did some more research on how to access it. Turns out you need an application called Tor, meaning the Onion Router. Websites said it was a place you should never visit, but I called their bluff, thinking those stories couldn't be true. There's always that little voice, isn't there? The one that whispers, "It won't happen to you. You're smarter than that." I listened to that voice, and it led me straight into a nightmare. Back to the point, I downloaded Tor, installed it, and opened it with my VPN, just to hide my address. I dove into something called the Hidden Wiki, which is basically a guide to the dark web. All these links led to sites, and within those sites, I saw the usual stuff: weapons for sale, credit cards, drugs, hackers, child, and other disturbing things. My stomach churned, but a morbid curiosity kept me scrolling. It was like looking into a forbidden mirror, reflecting the darkest corners of human depravity. I clicked one particular link that said, "Want a surprise? Click this link." The link wasn't your average .com, .net, or .to. It was a link with .onion, which all dark web links have. These links can't be accessed by the surface web, Google Chrome, Edge, Mozilla. This particular link was made up of random numbers and letters, with no context about what it was for. So I clicked it, wondering what kind of surprise there could be. My heart thumped a nervous rhythm against my ribs. It led me to a blank page that only said, "Continue only if you are meant to be here." I mindlessly clicked, "Continue." It took me to a video stream of some sort. It was in a dark room with a chair in the middle. I glanced to the right, and there was a chat box. The admin typed, "Let the games begin." A man appeared from the left with a woman, around 34 to 40, not sure, but she looked terrified. The man dragged her by the hair to the chair, sat her down, and started to torture her in ways I won't mention. The people in the chat paid with Bitcoin, around $500 per torture method. I got so sick I wanted to vomit. My hands trembled, and sweat beaded on my forehead. I tried to exit the site, but I couldn't. The exit button didn't work. It was like being trapped in a nightmare, unable to wake up. Then, the guy in the stream said, "Leaving so soon, Adrian? You will pay for this. You're next on our show. Don't believe us? My real address, redacted last name, redacted town." I got so scared, I turned my phone right off, hoping they wouldn't come and get me. 5 hours later, I turned my phone back on, deleted Tor, and swore to never use it again. My hands were still shaking as I wiped every trace of that horrifying experience from my device, as if erasing the data could erase the fear. And now, on the 17th of April, I found out my camera was hacked, and they took pictures of me. They know me. They want me. Don't try and let the authorities know, as I'll get into trouble for it too. I know they won't come for me as they are overseas, or so I thought. The room went silent, the virtual audience holding its breath. Adrian swallowed, his eyes darting around as if searching for something unseen. He continued, his voice barely above a whisper. "That's what I kept telling myself anyway. That they were overseas, that I was safe. But the pictures, they weren't just of me at my computer. There was one of me sleeping. One of me eating breakfast this morning. And then, a picture of my bedroom window, from outside." He paused, a shiver running down his spine. "I live on the 10th floor. No one could have taken that picture from outside without a drone, or being inside the building. I've been living in fear, jumping at every shadow, every creak. But it's been weeks since that night, and nothing. No one's come for me. I started to wonder if it was all an elaborate bluff, a psychological game." Adrian took a deep, shaky breath, his gaze settling on something beyond the camera, a flicker of understanding dawning in his eyes. "But then, last night, I got a new message. Not through the dark web, not through some encrypted app. It was a physical note, slid under my door. It said, "The show isn't over, Adrian. It's just getting started. And you're not the victim. You're the director." He trailed off, his eyes widening as a chilling realization struck him. He slowly turned his phone, the camera panning across his own room. There, in the corner, almost hidden in plain sight, was a professional-grade camera, hooked up to a small, whirring device. It wasn't his phone camera they had hacked. It was a dedicated setup, installed in his apartment. "This entire time," Adrian whispered, his voice laced with dawning horror. "The dark web stream, the torture, it wasn't live. It was a pre-recorded loop. A performance staged for me. And the real show, the real torture, is this. My paranoia. My fear. They've been watching me. They are here. They're not overseas. They're the people who gave me this apartment, the ones who seemed so friendly, so helpful when I moved in last month. They were casting for a role, and I took it." He looked directly into the camera, a desperate, haunted plea in his eyes. "Don't go on the dark web. It's not worth risking your privacy. But sometimes the real horror isn't out there. Sometimes it's already inside your home, and you're the last one to know you're on stage." Adrian's breath hitched. The camera in the corner, discreetly placed behind a potted plant, whirred softly. It wasn't a standard webcam. It was a high-definition surveillance camera, the kind you'd see in a bank. He remembered the apartment complex's strict security, the background checks, the seemingly thorough vetting. It had all felt so professional, so reassuring. Now, it felt like a carefully constructed cage. He reached out a trembling hand, touching the cold metal of the camera. It felt impossibly real, impossibly solid. This wasn't a prank, not a bluff. This was an operation. His mind raced, replaying every interaction since he moved in. The overly friendly concierge, the building manager who always seemed to be just passing by. Even the cheerful maintenance man who had fixed his leaky faucet with uncanny speed. Were they all in on it? Were they all actors in his personal horror show? He thought back to the note. "You're the director." What did that mean? Was he supposed to do something? Participate? The thought made his blood run cold. He was a passive observer in that horrific stream, a horrified witness. But now, he was being told he was something more. He looked around his apartment, suddenly seeing it with new, terrified eyes. The carefully arranged furniture, the art on the walls, the books on his shelf. Did they know all this about him before he even moved in? Was this apartment chosen for him, tailored to his perceived vulnerabilities? He stumbled back, knocking over a stack of magazines. The sudden noise echoed in the unsettling silence. He had to get out. But where would he go? If they were truly this elaborate, this pervasive, they would know his family, his friends, his past. They had his address, his last name, his town. And now, they had his privacy, his sanity. His phone buzzed. A new message. It wasn't from an unknown number. It was from an old friend, Liam, whom he hadn't spoken to in months. "Hey man, heard you've been having some trouble. Need to talk?" A wave of relief washed over Adrian, quickly replaced by a fresh surge of dread. How did Liam know? He hadn't told anyone about this. No one. Unless they had contacted Liam. Or worse, unless Liam was part of it. The paranoia was a suffocating blanket, smothering any rational thought. He debated calling Liam, but the fear of being further manipulated held him back. Instead, he decided to test the waters. He typed a reply. "Everything's fine, just been busy. Why do you ask?" The response was almost immediate. "Just heard some things. Rumors. About experiments. On people who use certain dark web sites." Adrian's heart hammered. "Experiments?" He typed back, trying to keep his tone casual, even as his mind screamed. Liam's next message was cryptic. "They say some people get caught in a kind of feedback loop. They think they're watching, but they're actually being watched. They think they're safe, But they're the ones in the cage. Adrian stared at the words, a cold certainty settling over him. This wasn't Liam. This was them. Using Liam's account, twisting his friend's concern into another layer of psychological torture. They were actively constructing his reality, feeding his fear, playing him like a puppet on strings. He threw his phone across the room, the screen cracking against the wall. He needed to think, to find a way out of this labyrinth of lies. The note had called him the director. What did that imply? That he had some agency? Some control? Or was it just another cruel joke, designed to give him false hope? He remembered a detail from the dark web stream, the admin's chat box. The messages were typed, but the admin was never seen. And the voice of the torturer, it had sounded distorted, deep, almost robotic. Could it have been generated? Could the whole thing have been a sophisticated deepfake, designed to elicit a specific reaction from him? Then, another memory surfaced. The address the torturer had rattled off, Adrian's own address. He had immediately dismissed it as a threat, a violation. But what if it wasn't a threat? What if it was a clue? He walked to his computer, his hands still shaking. He reopened his browser, not Tor this time, just a regular one. He started searching, not for the dark web, but for his own apartment building. He looked at floor plans, building permits, anything he could find. He remembered the real estate agent mentioning the building was smart enabled, with advanced security and automation. At the time, it had sounded like a luxury. Now, it sounded like a trap. He found an old news article about the building's development. It mentioned a technology company, Echo Dynamics, that had invested heavily in its construction, focusing on integrated smart home systems and experiential living. Experiential living. The words echoed in his mind, chilling him to the bone. He typed Echo Dynamics into the search bar. The first result was their corporate website. Slick, professional, with gleaming images of futuristic homes and happy, technologically integrated families. He scrolled down, looking for anything that seemed out of place. And then he saw it, buried deep in there. Research and Development section, a seemingly innocuous project titled Symbiotic Immersion Protocol SIP. The description was vague, filled with corporate jargon about harmonizing digital and physical realities for enhanced user engagement. But a small, almost hidden footnote linked to a research paper. Adrian clicked it, his heart pounding. The paper was highly technical, discussing advanced AI, neural networks, and biometric data collection. But one paragraph jumped out at him. SIP aims to create fully immersive, personalized narrative experiences by continuously analyzing an individual's psychological profiles, fears, and desires. By leveraging ambient data capture and adaptive environmental responses, the system can dynamically construct compelling, emotionally resonant scenarios, blurring the lines between observer and participant. Adrian dropped the mouse. Personalized narrative experiences, blurring the lines between observer and participant. The horror wasn't just the dark web stream, it was his entire life since he moved into this apartment. He wasn't the victim of a random dark web encounter. He was the subject of an experiment. A very, very expensive, very elaborate experiment. He looked at the security camera again. It wasn't just recording him, it was analyzing him. His fear, his reactions, his attempts to escape, it was all data feeding into this SIP system, refining his personal horror narrative. The admin, in the chat, the torturer, Liam's messages, they were all facets of an AI, or a team of operators, responding in real time to his terror. And the twist. You're the director. It wasn't a joke about him being in charge. It meant his choices, his emotional responses, were actively shaping the plot. Every panic attack, every sleepless night, every desperate search for answers was just another scene in their script. He was directing his own unraveling. He walked to the window, peering out at the city lights. 10 floors up, he felt so high, so isolated. But now he knew he wasn't alone. He was in a fishbowl, and countless eyes were watching. He pictured the sleek, modern offices of Echo Dynamics, people in lab coats monitoring his vitals, analyzing his terror, celebrating his escalating paranoia as a successful data point. The realization was a crushing weight. He wasn't being targeted by criminals from the dark web. He was trapped by a corporation, a shadowy entity that sold experiential living by monetizing human fear. They hadn't just hacked his camera, they had hacked his reality. He picked up his phone, the cracked screen reflecting his pale, horrified face. He had to tell someone, anyone. But who would believe him? How could he prove that his apartment was a stage, his life a performance? He was just another paranoid internet user who went too far on the dark web. They had already preempted that, hadn't they? The hint about authorities. The suggestion he'd get in trouble. It was all part of the script, designed to isolate him. Adrian slumped onto his couch, the professional camera silently observing him from the corner. He was exhausted, drained, but a cold fire began to ignite within him. They had chosen him for his fears, for his vulnerability. But what if he stopped playing their game? What if he refused to be the victim? What if he decided to direct a different kind of show? He looked directly into the lens of the surveillance camera, a faint, unsettling smile beginning to form on his lips. "Hello, everyone," he whispered, his voice hoarse but steady. "My name is Adrian, and it seems the show is just beginning. But I think it's time for a new lead. What do you think Adrian's new lead might entail?"